African National Championship. And Sorrel, this rally has got some interesting roads.
It's all up the west coast, it's all in wheat fields, which tends to lull you into a false sense of security, because you think if you go off the road you're just going to go into the wheat fields and the farmers have been there. But every now and again you get something like this ditch behind us, which you can't see at speed, and it catches you out. And the roads themselves are quite diverse as well. There's some very high-speed stuff like the one we're standing on here. It's a proper farm road. But then they link from one farm to the other, and there's some very rough sections in between as well, which makes it a difficult rally. And it's also a rally with quite a high attrition rate. There's quite a few cars fall out because of things like this. And the speed is normally very high. So it's a nice enough rally to spectate, because there's a lot of farmyards. Every stage, I think, will have at least one farmyard where you can go through, so spectators sort of congregate there, and it's an exciting rally to watch, but a difficult one to actually win. And one that actually is a lot more difficult than people think it is.
And last night we had a cold front coming through, a lot of rain, and this evening there's another one expected. How will rain affect the outcome of the event?
The same as the event really is. On a road like this one we have here, the drainage is quite good, so it won't really affect it that much. And last night's rain, you can't see it now, but there will be wet patches. And a wet patch in a 90-degree corner should in turn suit the four-wheel drive, so they can accelerate out there a bit quicker. But I don't think rain is going to be a major influence in this event. Probably the wheat flies are going to bug us more than the rain, but I don't think weather will play at this point in time. I don't think weather is going to interfere at all. Having said that, the 4x4s should be very quick here as well. Rueda has done quite a few rallies here as well. Skalk's been here often enough. And with the long straights, these cars should perform quite well. And a lot of these corners it's not flowing corners, it's farm fields. So it's like a lot of 90-degree come into play. And that's acceleration out of the corner, and the four-wheel drive should be better than two-wheel drive there.
After criticism about the format of the rally last year, clerk of the course Robert Marl pulled a rabbit out of the bag this time around. He opened the rally with the longest stage of the entire event, the 43-kilometre Sunkloof stage, rather than a short tar spectator stage. Everyone welcomed the change. Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson were first on the road in their Class A8 Sasol dual-fuel Volkswagen Golf. After his strong showing in last year's series, Kuhn had hoped to challenge for championship honours this year, but unreliability from the Volkswagen had put an end to his chances by the fifth round. A single victory and 2 second places were all he had to show for his efforts after 6 rounds going into the event. It left him languishing in 5th place in the championship with 88 points, some 64 behind series leader Serge Damso. Damso and Paisley had enjoyed a successful season thus far, despite having to develop the new Class A8 Castrol Toyota Runex from scratch. 3 wins, a second, a third, and just 1 retirement had put them at the top of the championship table on 152 points. Yet it was no runaway domination from the pair, as Etienne Lawrence and Andre Vermeulen were breathing down their necks, just 4 points behind. However, the Subaru Rally provided the perfect backdrop for Damso to stretch his advantage, as the Somerset West-based driver loves the nature of these roads. He won the first Cape Rally in May and started this event favourite for another win in his quest for his 9th championship title. Reigning champions Jannie Havig and Douglas Judd in the second Class A8 Sasol dual-fuel Volkswagen Golf had not enjoyed the title defence they had hoped for. As with teammates Kuhn and Hodgson, their Golf had proven fragile all year, and they trailed down in 8th place in the championship. They started off the season in fine style by winning the opening event of the year, but 3 retirements and some tough events also ended their chances of glory early in the season. A 2nd and a 4th place was all they had to go with the solitary win. A win on this event would go a long way to making up for a poor season. Lawrence and Vermeulen had been the stars of the season in their Class A7 Team Total Toyota Corolla. They had taken the battle to the faster Class A8 cars all year and had finished on the podium in 5 of 6 events. Just 4 points behind Damso in the championship race, they'd notched up 1 win, 1 second and 3 third places. In fact, they were so successful that the Rally Commission was planning to restrict the performance of the Class A7 cars next season. More on that later. The unluckiest crew of the year had been Johnny Gemmell and Greg Godrich in the Class N4 L&J Plant Subaru Impreza. After skipping the first event of the year, they had led every rally at some point, only to see their efforts go to waste with mechanical gremlins. They'd failed to finish every event so far and had 0 points on the board. They came out of the blocks flying to win the opening test by 5 seconds as the four-wheel drive cars made a clean sweep of the stage. Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lefkowitz had also endured a frustrating season in their Class A7 Sasol dual-fuel Volkswagen Player. Desperate to prove his mettle against class rival Lawrence, the Player had seldom allowed Fecken to display his talent. 4 retirements in 6 events was his record. On the occasions that the Player had performed as it should, he had reminded observers that he was still able to match Lawrence for pace. However, once again, the event started poorly for him when the Player ingested water into its electrical system, the result of a plastic electronics protector not being fitted properly. It cost him almost 1.5 minutes to Lawrence on the stage and put him out of the running. JP Damso and Cobus Frey had enjoyed a mixed season in their Class A7 Team Total Toyota Corolla. Having moved up from Class A6, Damso appeared to struggle with the pace of the faster Class A7 car on occasion, but in recent events he had shown that he was getting closer to the pace of class leader Lawrence. He meant business on his home event, however, and finished the stage just 6 seconds slower than Lawrence. Having recently clinched the FIA African Rally Championship, Fernando Rueda was bullish about his chances of winning this event in his Motion Motorsport Mitsubishi Lancer. Teamed with Pierre Aries in the local series, the Spaniard had threatened the leaders in most events, but had not managed to pull off his first win yet. Fourth in the overall point standings, he was involved in a mighty class battle with Schalk Burger for title honours. He opened his account third quickest on the stage, some 10 seconds off Gemmel's pace. Burger, back with Vito Bonafede in the navigator's seat, was pushing hard in the Bridgestone Subaru South Africa Impreza. Despite this little overindulgence, he was second fastest in the stage, just 5 seconds slower than Gemmel. The crowd appreciated his efforts. Kali van der Merwe and Gideon Trollop in the mobile Subaru Impreza were in for a short rally. They would retire early with a blown turbo. Having skipped the daunting Motorpix Mountain Trial, reigning Group N champion Leon Buerta and Richard Clark returned to action in this event in their Pretoria Subaru Impreza. 3 non-finishes and the skipped event had put Buerta out of the title running, but he wanted to prove his mettle against the class leaders. He was well off the pace in the opening stage, but was trying hard. Local driver Werner Kukamur and Graham Hooper have contested only selected events in their Auto Spot Subaru Impreza. Kukamur, a former regional racing track star, is a crowd favourite thanks to his commitment to entertaining the crowds with a spectacular driving style. Nicholas Ryan and Brian Careyhill were the surprise finding in the early part of the season in their ABC Motors Subaru Impreza. They opened the year with a strong 4th overall in the first event before following up with 6th and 7th place finishes to lead the Group N class after 3 events. It all fell apart thereafter though. 3 non-finishes in the next 3 events after a variety of incidents and mechanical problems dropped them to 6th in Group N. They were determined to put that behind them and get back into the points on this event. The top car Hugo Boss watchers BMW of Cliff Blackman and Johan Claassen had swapped its 6-cylinder engine for a 4-cylinder unit. The small engine saved 50 kilograms and gave better weight distribution. On paper it should also have provided equal power. In reality it was well down on grunt, making life difficult for Blackman. He also had to adjust his driving to cater for the later braking points thanks to his lighter steed. Charles Wilken had also been a revelation in the Castrol Toyota Runex this year following his move from track racing. Teamed with Robin Houghton, Wilken had already clinched the Class N3 title thanks to minimal opposition, but nevertheless his commitment in the stages made the title a just reward. He had embarrassed many faster cars throughout the year and held 6th place in the overall championship after finishing every event. Class A6 champions Craig Trott and Gerard Snyman were still driving hard in the Team Total Toyota Corolla as Jose Ferreira and Miguel da Costa approached at speed from the other end of the junction. Navigator da Costa is only 16 years old, making him the youngest competitor in national rallying by quite a substantial margin. Chart van der Balt and Mike Burrows had also endured a torrid season thus far, and the first stage was proving to be more of the same. Water ingestion due to the same cause as Fecken cost them 40 minutes in the stage and 14 minutes in penalties, putting them stone last. Stage 2 was the final gravel stage of day 1 before the crews tackled 2 tar stages at the Killarney race circuit. Having dropped 37 seconds to Gemmell in the long first stage, which included an overshoot on a corner, Hugh knew he had to pull out all the stops in an attempt to close the gap. The Golf crew would take back 7 seconds on the 16.3 kilometre stage, but their time of 8 minutes 32 seconds was only good enough for third fastest stage time and 5th overall. Chasing his 9th title, Damso was also after Sarel van der Merwe's record number of wins, which stands at 66. Damso had 61 wins going into the event and was closing in fast. Arguably, the performance of the season had come from the Toyota Motorsport technical crew. Having built the new Runix in the off-season, it arrived at the first event with woeful handling. Damso had a fight on his hands, just keeping it on the road, and looked a worried man. But by the second event, it was much improved. Constant further development has seen it evolve into arguably the best car in the field. Certainly it is the most successful, taking 3 wins and the championship lead. Well done to the techies. Having dropped 24 seconds to Gemmell in the first stage, Damso was stung into action and adopted maximum attack mode for stage 2. Driving at the absolute limit, he won the stage by 2 seconds, but more importantly took back 10 seconds on leader Gemmell. He was now just 12 seconds off the lead. Habich was at his spectacular best. He had lost chunks of time in stage 1 when his car would not reach maximum speed and was now pushing as hard as he dared. Going into the event, just 4 points behind Damso and Paisley, Lawrence and Vermeulen knew that this was the best chance they had ever had, and may ever have, to take the overall title. Class titles are nice to have, and both have already secured a few, but it's the overall one that counts. A mix of speed and consistency saw the pair right in the thick of the championship hunt, but if they wanted to take the crown, they knew that now was the time to stand up and be counted as the fight intensified towards the end of the season. They did not have a very good first stage, losing almost a minute to win a Gemmell. It put them back in 7th overall, but more importantly was the fact that they lost 33 seconds to championship rivals Damso and Paisley. Barring misfortune to Damso, a superhuman effort would be required to close such a large gap. Was it all over barely before it had started? Despite his best efforts, the stage would once again cost Lawrence time. He could only post the 7th fastest time yet again and lost another 13 seconds to stage winner Damso. He could offer no explanation for his sluggish times, but felt it could only be him to blame.
Johnny, 2 stages down, you tied for the lead with Skalkberger. Obviously had a good run the first.
Yeah, the first one we went well, was a long one, 42 Ks. Then the second one we had a slight problem, but no, it's tied now. And Fernando is third by 3 seconds only, so it's close.
You said a blistering pace on that first stage. What was it? Was it just the stage suit you're driving, the car? What was it that made you so quick?
No, that was the longest one of the event. It's like 20% of the rally, so we thought we better try and do something there in that one. And it worked.
So 2 stages down, and we've got a great battle at the head of the field and 3 cars that we don't usually see at the front of the field.
I think it's probably the nicest top 5 we've had in this whole year. 30 seconds separating 5 guys and 2 seconds the first 3. And the nice thing, as you said, is the 4-wheel drives leading. 1, 2, 3. I think it's set up for a hell of a day tomorrow.
Skalk, 2 stages down, joint leader. You came out the blocks firing today.
Yeah, and it's going well so far. And I think this condition suits the car as well. And the car is going reasonably quite well today. I'm very happy with it.
We've heard you've had a few niggling little problems, wheel bearing and something with your anti-lag. I presume it's going to go even better now.
Well, we changed the anti-lag situation because that's stupidity on my side, but anyhow, I've learned now. But yeah, hopefully it'll go better tomorrow.
Right. You're renowned for not quite liking the night stages. We've got one coming up now. You still think, how do you rate your chances of being in the lead tomorrow morning?
Preferably not.
A lot of guys are already talking tactics again, not wanting to be first in the road for tomorrow. So the 2 stages now, maybe some lateness and that going to come into play again.
You know, when things are this tight, I'd be surprised if it's going to have a role to play at all, because with 5 guys there, all within 30 seconds, why would you want to give away 10 seconds to any of your rivals? And I don't know who's going to start doing it. I'd be surprised if it happens, but I think it's set up for a hell of a nice day tomorrow. It's also going to be, the tarmac stages tonight is going to be interesting, because the 4-wheel drives have certainly been the class act today, but I don't know what they might drop a few seconds tonight, and there's, you know, tight Mickey Mouse through the pit side things, and the A8s and A7 cars might just be a bit quicker. But I think we've got the makings of a hell of a rally tomorrow.
The Killarney stage attracted a huge number of paying fans to watch the action. It took the format of a super special stage with 2 cars pitted against each other in a head-to-head format, all of it on tar. We went in car with Berger, who was up against Rueda. The route wound its way around the track and through the pit area and access roads, giving crews a mix of high speed and slow point and squirt type driving. This type of stage does not suit the large, heavy and somewhat cumbersome 4-wheel drive cars, but in recent events the drivers of these cars have got to grips with them in these tight stages and quite often set surprisingly fast times. Won this duel over Berger by 4 seconds. After the second running of the stage in the dark, the Spaniard would lead the event overall by 5 seconds from Gemmel. Berger was a further 6 seconds back in third, having lost 11 seconds to Rueda over the 2 stages. Next up were Lawrence and Habich. Lawrence traditionally does well in this type of stage, his smooth driving style ensuring that he maintains momentum in the tight bits. We drive with him through the pits on his way to the second fastest stage time. Meanwhile, Habich was on the rev limiter as he flashed past the camera. Both drivers were pushing to the limit, with Lawrence even using the grass. And Habich leaned on the tyres as he overdid it a little bit. It cost him minimal time, but he finished 2 seconds slower than Lawrence. Damso's circuit racing experience also helps him in these stages. He comprehensively beat Kuhn in this stage, but Kuhn had the satisfaction of turning the tables on him in the second running of the test, although they were given identical stage times in the timesheets. Damso also took the overall stage win, clipping Lawrence into second place by just 1 second. JP Damso also enjoys these stages and has a good track record in them. In the second running, he showed everyone the way home, clipping his father, Kuhn and Lawrence by a second. After 66 kilometers of competitive stages, 45 cars out of the original 53 starters would start day 2. After 4 stages on day 1, Group N 4 cars dominated the head of the standings for the first time. It was also the first time in many years that 3 privateers headed the log. Hobbig and Lawrence were in an uncharacteristic 6th and 7th overnight, with Damso Jr. a strong 8th. Kukamu was the surprise in 9th, ahead of Ryan.
We had 4 stages yesterday, 6 to go today. And so those 4 stages, just a minute covering the first 8 cars, perhaps a little closer than we expected.
Tonight was probably Fernando Rueda, he's leading by 5 seconds. But everything very, very tight behind him. And after the reports of the first stage, he seems to be holding on to the lead, and I think we set up for a hell of a dice this morning, and everybody's there. I just hope they all stay there.
And obviously we have to watch the battle between Serge and Etienne. That's the championship battle.
Etienne's lagging a bit. He's like, I think 25 odd seconds behind Serge, so he's got it all to do this morning. And I think from Serge's point of view, he just has to finish ahead of him to make the next rally a bit safer. But, Etienne, very quick last night on the tarmac. Very exciting, beat Hobbig twice in a row on the same stage. So I think he's going to have a full go as well.
The first stage of day 2 would see another unique happening. Damso, Keen, Hobbig and Rueda all set identical fastest stage times over the 16.3 kilometer test. Berger was 9 seconds slower, allowing Damso to move into 3rd. Class N3 leader Vulcan put his track experience to good use to set some impressive times at Killarney. He was once again fully committed on the dirt. Richard Bem and Grant Sinclair were almost a minute ahead of the Class N2 opposition at the end of the first day in their Palbin Toyota Corolla. They had blitzed the long first stage of the rally, setting them up perfectly to control their lead from the front. Trott and Snyman were comfortably leading Class A6. They had already wrapped up the class title for the year and could push as hard as they wanted, knowing they had nothing to lose.
We've seen this year that Etienne A7 cars taken the fight to the Class A8 cars. Now the Rally Commission's put forward a proposal to limit their performance. What's your opinion on that?
You know, the whole rule situation, I think, is quite ludicrous at this point in time. Because we've had a situation over the years where the manufacturers involved have sort of made the rules. Now they've been weeded down to 2, Volkswagen and Toyota, representing 3 cars, and they're still calling the shots, which is quite ridiculous. You know, the Rally Commission doesn't seem to have any teeth. They just rubber stamping whatever the 2 manufacturers decide. And really the whole essence of a rally is around privateers. And certainly if you look at the top order at the moment, 3 privateer cars in the top 3 or top 4, and yet they're being told what to do. And now if we look at the new proposals where they want to limit the N7s, that could only really come from William Haddad from Toyota. And in his case, he probably doesn't want the old car to beat the new car.
According to what I understand from people that I've spoken to, the whole idea is to bring the whole Class A7 class closer to each other. But protecting 3 A8 cars in front doesn't make any sense to me.
I think that is exactly what you just said is exactly what it's all about, trying to protect the 3 A8 cars in front, and I agree with you, it's absolute nonsense.
I think rather than restricting Class A7, they should build better Class A8 cars.
Well, being the competitor's representative, I obviously must look after the interest of the competitors, and it's not only the manufacturer teams that are involved in A7. I think we need to find a sort of a middle way where we keep the manufacturers happy as well as the privateers. I mean, this rule changes is definitely to the negative in terms of the privateers. I think the biggest problem is that the A8 class should have moved forward and not making rules to pull the A7s back. I think that's the main drive behind the lot.
But ideally, from where we are, and certainly from a public spectacle point of view, I think it's preferable to have the A7s up there, and at least you can have a few more cars that come in the rally, and now we're trying to stop that.
Yeah, well, I think the idea is to go faster. I mean, not to make rules to let the Oaks go slower. And with the tyre restrictions and all those sort of things that they want to impose for next year, I just think it's to the detriment of the privateers. So my feeling at this point in time is we need to go and sit down with the commission again and see if we can't speak to them and maybe get some leeway in terms of a sensible rule for A7.
I think rallying is an all-time high as far as public interest is concerned. But we need to have the formula to go with it, to have more cars at the top, more drivers fighting for the overall lead instead of classes lower down and trying to eliminate people that actually challenge the works cars.
Overnight, Rueda and Aries were first on the road on day 2. Going into stage 6, they held an 11-second lead over Gemmell, with Damso a further 3 seconds in arrears. With Berger and Kuhn another 6 and 9 seconds back respectively, it was extremely close at the head of the field, with any one of the 5 capable of taking victory. Rueda had driven well all year and continues to improve with each event. There's no doubt that his forays into Africa have helped lift his driving and confidence to new highs. The experience he has gained means he's becoming an ever more serious threat to the established frontrunners with each event. Gemmell has also enjoyed rallying in Africa and is the current champion. He's also an established winner on the local scene, having won 2 events outright. He was now well poised to challenge for his first local win since 2001. He would be quickest of the four-wheel drive cars with the 3rd fastest stage time. We drive with Berger as he tackled stage 6. Berger is another driver to have competed in Africa. In fact, he was the first South African to take the title in 2001 before he switched back to the local championship. Having built a brand new Subaru for this season, the veteran had put in some superb performances and given the works cars a run for their money. He was 3rd in the overall championship and leading Class N4 going into this event. With Rueda his closest class challenger, it was a no-holds-barred battle between the two for championship honours, as it had been for most of the season. He was not hanging about in this stage, but Rueda would clip him by a single second. Always fiercely competitive, Damso was not about to settle for anything less than a win, no matter where Lawrence was. Just watch how totally committed he was down the hill and through the splash. The fans loved it, and it would pay off with the fastest stage time and the overall lead of the rally for the first time. He was a huge 14 seconds quicker than the next man. Keane was still pushing as hard as he could and would be 2nd quickest through the stage, moving him 2 seconds ahead of Berger for 4th overall. Likewise, Habich was hard at it, spraying the spectators with mud and stones. Lawrence looked fast and spectacular, but the times were not there, and he was coming under serious pressure for the class lead from Damso Jr. JP had moved 1 second ahead on stage 5, but Lawrence fought back on this stage to win by 2 seconds, regaining a 1 second lead. It could not be any closer. This was by far Damso's best performance of the year, and it could be a portent of things to come in future. Ryan was back in the hunt for honours, running comfortably in the top 10 throughout the event. But Buerter was still well off the pace of the front runners, perhaps as a result of trying too hard. Note the damage to the rear of the Subaru. route was lined with fans, craning their necks for a better view of the cars. Sadly, Rueda's good run had come to an end against a concrete post. The Mitsubishi was seriously crippled, having its rear wheel at 45 degrees to the chassis. He tried in vain to get the car to the end of the stage, but it would not go any further without enlisting the help of the crowd. It was a miserable end to the event for the likeable Cape Townian, as he was still in with a chance of snatching his first local win. He could only watch with huge disappointment as rival Gemmell passed the stricken Mitsubishi.
Just give us a quick rundown of what happened.
We just came out on a left-hander and we ran out of road. It was much more sleepy than I thought. So we hit a pole and it took the rear wheel off. That's it.
Oh, yeah. Skin of the doors is still lying down there.
Yeah.
Gemmell had chosen wet weather tyres for the stage, and it proved to be an inspired choice. He set a blistering pace, taking 24 seconds off second fastest Damso to snatch back the lead. With an 11-second advantage, the stage was set for a fantastic fight to the finish. Stage 7 was also a poor one for Berger. His Subaru's gearbox stuck in third gear, costing him about 2 minutes and dropping him out of the lead battle. From the in-car camera on Damso's car, it was obvious how wet the road was and why those on dry tyres, including Damso, lost so much time. Enjoy his commitment through the stage, though. Considering that the Runix is front-wheel drive and that it was on dry tyres, Damso's performance on the stage was phenomenal. The fact that he lost 3/4 of a second per kilometre to Gemmell over the 32 kilometres, while his two-wheel drive rivals all lost more than a second, highlights how well he drove the stage.
So just quite a tough fight up at the head of field, but your stage 7 didn't go quite according to plan.
Well, there was no ways we had any hope in that stage. The condition of the, it was very muddy. We had dries on. We can't take a chance with wets, 32 k's. So a four-wheel drive should win hands down on that stage.
What's the overall position now?
Not too sure. You're asking the wrong person, I think.
Enzo, you had a good night last night, made up a few seconds. It was all pretty tight this morning. How's it going today?
I think this stage just determined the rally winner. It was very wet and slippery, very tricky. Certainly lots of places to go off. And I think the Toyota still got the legs on us. We're really just comparing ourselves to him. But Johnny Gemmell did well in this stage. Brilliant drive, and I think this will award him the rally if he sticks to the road now. It was wet and tricky, and he was on the right tyres, and he did a good job, so that's him.
Johnny, you've been right at the front all rally, but stage 7 seems to possibly have been the one that will clinch the event for you.
Yeah, it looked good, that one. Just before we started, we saw a lot of rain clouds, so we were hoping it had rained, and when halfway through it did rain, or it had rained, and it was quite slippery, and we knew we could make some time up. And maybe just after that, we didn't see Fernando's tracks in front of us, and he had gone off somewhere. We didn't see where. So, no, we were quite happy, eh? Yeah.
Tell me, a lot of the guys said they were on wrong tyres. Were you on dries or wets?
No, we took wets on that one. Just took a bit of a gamble, and it turned out good for us.
Sorrel, the drivers have been talking about wrong tyre choices now in stage 7, wet, dry tyres. Just explain to us the difference. We've got samples here.
Okay, this is a dry tyre on the side. You'll see it's quite a bit wider than the wet one. The reason is on a dry stage, the tyres build up a lot of heat, so there's bigger tread area, bigger contact area, more grip, and more dissipation of heat. On the other hand, we have the wet tyre, which is a lot narrower, and if you have mud and stuff, it sort of bites through the mud and gets to the hard surface at the bottom. So with this thing in mud, like you sometimes find on tar roads, you get aquaplaning in wet weather. In mud, a wide tyre like this will also to some extent aquaplane on the mud, and the narrower one will bite through. And this of course is very important under braking, in corner speed, and of course acceleration on the other side. So a stage like we just had, which was very wet, the difference between a wet and a dry tyre could easily be 25-30 seconds. And that's what they're all about, but it's basically in the width where it can bite through, and with dry tyres, heat dissipation, more contact area, but in the wet you don't want the big contact because it floats in the mud.
JP, this is a home event for you, but nevertheless you're driving the pants off your car and you're leading Class A7.
Yeah, we've been going well so far. This last one was a bit hairy, it was a little bit wetter, and we were with a drier tyre. But we still managed to take some time off in the class. And yeah, we've got a slight lead now. But still, we don't use these roads very often, so we can't say it's our backyard. So we'll see how it goes the next 2-3 stages.
With rain spread out in isolated downpours, the conditions were varying from stage to stage. Choosing the right tyres was therefore something of a lottery for the crews, as without recce crews, as in the World Rally Championship, they had no idea if there were wet patches in the stages or not. Stage 8 was once again dry and dusty. Gemmell defended his advantage well, losing just 1 second to Damso over the 21 kilometres, despite losing his brakes towards the end of the stage. Berger had traced his gearbox problem to a broken linkage. It was quickly fixed though, allowing him to return to full speed. He set the 5th fastest time. Watch Damso cut the corner to save precious time. He was after Gemmell's lead and would tie for the fastest stage time, but it was only 1 second quicker than the leader. Kuhn was also cutting corners, and it helped him to match Damso's time. With good friend Rueda's demise, he was now in 3rd place, some 46 seconds behind Gemmell. Harvick was also flying and made it a 3-way tie for the fastest stage time. Following the 4-way tie earlier in the day, it highlighted just how competitive it was at the head of the field. There was no room for error. Unfortunately, JP Damso was forced to retire at the start of stage 8 with a broken rose joint in the gear linkage. At the time, he held an 18-second lead over Lawrence. The latter was relieved to be free of the pressure, but was still at a loss to explain his lack of pace on the event. After 3 tough events that saw him off the road a few times, Ryan had avoided such indiscretions this time to hold 6th place overall, and now 2nd in class behind Berger. He was battling with a misfire in the final stages though, and losing time to rivals behind. Seconds player was looking battered and bruised after being driven to the limit and beyond. After his early misfires, he also broke a side shaft in stage 6 that cost him about 2 minutes. However, he had managed to climb into the top 10 and was fighting to make up as many positions as possible before the finish. With just 1 gravel stage to go, it was now or never for Damso to make up the 10-second gap to Gemmell. This is worth watching. Cape Wheatfields make for spectacular high-speed rallying, and the Runnex revelled in these conditions. It was not enough for Damso to take the stage win, however, having to settle for third fastest time. Going back in car with Damso, watch out for how he almost spins the car, but recovers superbly, hardly missing a beat. Look out too for Berger's stranded Subaru on the side of the road. The Impreza had broken its gearbox, perhaps as a result of the earlier linkage problem, and he was now also out of the event. Damso had enjoyed his fair share of good fortune this year, the Runnex narrowly making the finish line on occasion due to mechanical gremlins that would have eliminated it had events been slightly longer. It had run faultlessly on this event though, and the multiple champions' performance had very little to do with luck and everything to do with speed and experience. Rallying's ever-increasing popularity had seen crowds growing at each event this year. The Cape Rallies have traditionally attracted large crowds, but this event was bigger than ever. Gemel's bad luck would strike again. Having led every event this year, he had not finished one. This rally would follow the same pattern. Entering the stage with a 10-second lead, the Turbo Blue in stage 9. What does the man have to do to finish a rally, let alone win one? Kuhn was still hard at it and would beat Damso by 1 second. But it was Habig who took the stage win by 4 seconds from Kuhn. Due to all the retirements, Lawrence was now in a rather fortuitous 4th overall. He was under no threat for class honours and now simply had to stroke it to the finish. It was not a great event for his championship hopes, as the 4-point gap to Damso tripled. But having won the final event of last year in the Northern Province, it would be foolish to write off his championship chances. As is common knowledge, it ain't over till the fat lady sings. Back to Damso in stage 9. Having passed the stricken Subaru of Gemel, he now knew that he would win the event if he just made it to the finish. After having endured such a tough fight for most of the event, the battle had fallen apart as the top privateer contenders fell out one by one. It was a sad end to the rally, as had all the cars still been running, it would have made for a grandstand finish. With Gemel's demise, Kuhn was now securely in second. He was still fully committed, however, and at this point he and Damso set the identical times. Passing Gemel's stricken Subaru, which had now ground to a halt, Habig was not hanging about either and was fastest to this point. He was too far back to challenge his teammate for second, but in the circumstances, salvaging a podium was a good result.
Johnny, last time we spoke, you leading the rally. You've had 2 terrible stages. Tell us about it.
Yes, there's one before this we were going well. We just lost a second to Surge and we had no brakes the last couple of Ks, so we were really struggling there at the end. We managed to get just the front brakes working for this one, and we did the stage, and halfway through now we've got a turbo problem, so we have to stop.
Unbelievable. It just hasn't been your year.
No, definitely not, definitely. Shit.
Bad luck. Good luck, what, Great North next time.
Yeah, we'll see. Thanks.
Ryan was up to 5th overall and the new Group N leader, but was still battling the misfire. It now put him under serious threat from Fecken and Rob de Prier. Swanepoel was still going in his Subaru, but it had been a troubled event as he lost time with a puncture and destroyed brake pipes. Note the body damage from the puncture, which led to the brake problems. With minimal braking power, he was just driving to make it to the end. Fecken was running 7th overall, but would sniff a 5th place finish. There was no time for him to cruise to the end. Dupree and Richard Gernholz were closing in on Ryan in their slurry reclaimers Subaru Impreza. The pair took ownership of it during the year and were improving with every event as they familiarized themselves with the car. Vulcan and Houghton had put in another sterling performance to run in the top 10 and ahead of many more powerful cars. Having impressed so much during the year, the interesting question now is where Toyota will place them next year. Boss BMW is still the proud favourite in terms of spectacle. It had been a difficult event for Blackman and Klaassen, but they would record yet another finish and take 3rd in Class A7. Bem and Sinclair ran out comfortable Class N2 winners after leading the entire event. It was an impressive drive from the pair. Trott and Snyman took the Class A6 honours yet again with a solid drive to 12th overall. Once again, there was a large paying crowd to watch the final stage at Killarney. The format was slightly different this time, with the cars not going head-to-head, but rather starting 1 minute apart and having to do 5 laps each. It resulted in up to 4 cars line astern on the track at the same time, but they had all completed a different number of laps. Abich was the fastest on the stage, taking the win by 1 second from Kuhn for his 4th stage win of the event. Lawrence was 4th fastest in the Corolla. All Damso had to do now was to get the Runex home, as he was not pushing too hard. He nevertheless set the 3rd fastest time, 4 seconds of Habich's. It was enough for his 4th win of the year, 32 seconds ahead of Kuhn, but it was also the 62nd win of his career. Kokomo's objective was to entertain the crowd, and with minimal brakes he was doing a fine job, using all of the track and more. A satisfied Damso was pleased to see the Runex safely parked in Park Vermeer. But Kokomo was still in the entertainment business. When the traffic got a bit much, Vulcan pulled his track racing out-braking manoeuvres out of the bag. Ferreira, a rallyist through and through, was not quite sure how to take it all, but fought back on the straights. Once done with the Subaru on the 2nd attempt, it was the turn of Blackman's BMW to fall to Vulcan. After a tough event, it was Damso once again at the top of the leaderboard. A strong finish from Fecken saw him snatch 5th from Ryan by 6 seconds, while the latter held of Dupree by just 3 seconds for the Group N win. Vulcan did well to finish in amongst the Subarus in 9th place.
Also, that was a nice solid win on home ground, but at times it was looking a bit rough.
Yeah, you know, it started this morning with we had quite a charge and thought we could control it, but the one stage it turned out to be very muddy, and then we lost quite a bit of time, and I thought, oh well, that's going to be quite hard to make up, and eventually, we kept on trying, and then Johnny unfortunately had his problems.
But you certainly had a tough time with all the 4x4s, the top 3 of them.
Yes, I think it was quite organised, this event, especially the first stage. I think it was made for the Subarus at 4x4.
You did pick up a few points on the championship chase, though. It makes it a bit easier for the last one.
Yes, yeah, you know, the championship it's important, but we'll take it as it comes.
The win opened Damso's championship lead to 12 points over Lawrence, while Kuhn was the big mover as he climbed from 5th to 3rd. Rueda was the biggest loser, dropping from 4th to 7th.
And Richard Leeks lead over Mark Ronier and Chris Birkin in the Castrol Toyota Hilux in the SA Off-Road Championship for Production Vehicles, presented by APSA, has been whittled away after the recent Queen Motorspares Taka 400. Only 7 of the 8 rounds count towards the championship, and Grobler and Leek, who won the first 4 events of the season, have held the lead all year long.
It's very tight at the moment after we've dropped our points on the one event. The guys are very close to us, and we're very concerned about it. We'll have to try and win this event again to stay ahead of them.
The Nissan pair failed to complete the prologue and started 22nd, 16 minutes behind teammates Janil de Villiers and François Jordan. They had to contend with brake problems on lap 1 and gearbox problems on lap 2 of the Queen Motorspares Taka 400, and in the end settled for 4th overall. What are the prospects for Mark Ronier?